Ready? Ready?
Hey everybody, so falling back on our In the Garden series, I've kind of left that alone for a little bit and just kind of let everything do whatever it was going to do and just kept up with my garden. So I just kind of give you guys a little quick breeze through as far as like the progress, but I wanted to give you more of an update, which is what I'm doing now, is more of an update on my kiwi. So we started with the first few episodes, which were transplanting and preparing the kiwi for their rooting stage, where they're kind of like get their foundation with their roots. And then when spring comes around, which is, we're pretty close to that now, it's mid-February, and today is Super Bowl Sunday of all days. So anyway, just to give you kind of a little idea. Okay, so here we have Mint, which is a clone, which came to me in like 3 little pieces like this, and I've got a bunch of this all over the shop now. We got some cherry tomatoes. The bell peppers are doing very, very well. You can see here that this one is already split off on its own, and is doing very well. My fig tree, excellent, doing very, very well. This is the new growth from here to here since we started giving you the updates on it. This is my grape clone, which, as you can see, is already like growing up, and it's got 2 nice long branches coming off of it now, and they're doing pretty well. Here, tomato, we've got plenty of tomatoes. See here, we're going all the way up, and one thing I had to do that I never really didn't think of before was, when you have an indoor garden, you wind up with a lot of bugs because of the moisture and, you know, the different places where they can grow their eggs or whatever in the soil. So I've been noticing a lot, like anything that has these humidifier lids, they have a lot of bugs flying around inside. So what I did was I added this feature here to my garden, and I put in some fly strips, and as you can see, they've done very, very well at containing the amount of bugs that fly around here. And I know, I understand that you need to have the flies and the bugs to pollinate the flowers, and it seems that by the time they land on the flower strip, they're doing, they've already done their job, because as you can see here, we have plenty of fruit growing or vegetables growing off of this stuff. So what we're doing today is, as you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 2 females and 2 males. You can see the bands on the blue and the red. That's a male and a female. So I got one more, and as you can see here, here's all the baskets from those that I've already planted. And as you can see here, if you look inside there, there's roots growing inside there. So they're ready to go in the ground. And that's the plan for today. Is I've already done those first 4, and now we're gonna do number 5 right now and show you guys how that's done. Okay, so for the most part, what we got here is these baskets. So what I usually do is I'll just kind of like tip out all the rocks that are in there, the pumice that helps keep the moisture in a little bit more moisture between the rocks and the sponge, so that the sponge doesn't dry out right away. So what we do is you see here, I had cut out the center of the basket here to allow the sponge and the stems to come through. So by doing that, I have to cut back the sponge and get rid of half the sponge for the stick to do its job, right? The bottom of the stick to allow the new roots to grow, right? So there you see how much those grow in 3 or 4 months that you have them rooting. So what I've been doing is taking that same sponge and putting it back in and around there so it doesn't change its environment very much, right? So now that that's opened, right, I can get rid of these rocks that are in here. And you see we have roots growing out of the top. So my plan is to put this sponge just a little bit above those roots so that my band is still sticking out. I have a little bit of space there. And my root is what's going to go down in the dirt. And the sponge, all it's doing is creating kind of like a little buffer. And it's going to do like what your pumice does, is it traps moisture and helps keep a little bit of extra moisture in there, and it allows for the plant and the dirt to absorb what moisture it needs when it wants it. So that's what that's about. Alright, so now that I've made a mess, and I got to kind of clean up after myself. Most gentlemen will do that. So stay gentlemanlike. You know, I usually keep a 5-gallon bucket filled up halfway with a pre-mixed water that I use to water my plants, or I just take it out of the aquaponics system. So, but in this case I have a bucket handy. So that's just going to go back in the green room on the floor with the rest of the plants, and they'll just kind of make their transition. They'll make their transition from being aquaponic to being in the ground. So there you have it. That's how easy it is. You just have to water them every day, you know, when they're needed, when it's needed. Usually if the dirt is dry on the top, then it's pretty close to time to water them. And you can usually tell from the plants, because they're actually wilted. They look sad. And right now everything in here looks pretty good. I have a couple little branches that are like ready to fall off for whatever reason. They don't do very well, some of them. So let's say like this one here is just taking energy away from the rest of the plant. So usually what I do is I'll cut those off, and then a new branch will grow from wherever those were cut off, will come out of there. And that's why these are so huge, and they grow very well. So now I've got to figure out what I want to stick in here to replace these empty holes in my system. And to be honest, we've acquired quite a few different seeds and stuff over the last couple months. So here we have lettuce, giant spinach, cilantro, alpine strawberries, lettuce, Grand Rapids lettuce, yellow chilies. They call those sweet banana peppers, serrano peppers, and large cherry tomatoes. Back in there we have there's tomatillo, bell pepper, and from what I can see here, we got a strawberry and a basil. And in the back we got a couple avocado branches that I've been working on, and a rosemary that seeing if it'll continue rooting and do its thing. There you have it. That's the indoor garden room, and I'll take you over to my window here and show you that.
which I'm kind of a little bummed about that because I think my neighbors have the heater on downstairs and they've moved out. So I got to kind of get a hold of them and find out if they can go downstairs and turn off the heater. All right, so here is my other little garden table, which I'm going to, today I'm going to work on moving a lot of these plants back home into my greenhouse until they're ready to go into the ground because as you can see outside, the weather's changed up very, very nice. It being Sunday, they're not working on the sinkhole, so there's not a whole bunch of noise, tractors beeping in the background. But here we have green bell pepper. There's a couple basils. There's a basil there, basil. That there is some kind of a seed that I pulled out of a corned beef mix, seed mix, flavor mix. This one here doesn't look like it's gonna make it, so that I'll get a new pot. I guess I can use for something else. That didn't make it. I had a bunch of lettuce that I was trying to grow out here, but it doesn't look like it's wanted to do a whole lot. But I do have something there, which I don't know what it is, so we got to give it a little while to grow. We got plenty of tomatoes, as I said before, and you can see the grapevine that's growing across the window there is not liking this heat in here. So I'm gonna transfer it back home and put it outside now that the weather's changed up and we're looking at some spring-like weather now. And I noticed that this also is not liking life in front of this mirror, so we're gonna move it today. And you can see here that it's kind of burnt, so I don't know what the deal is there, but it needs to get transplanted. I think we're gonna put this one in that bucket that we just found that's available.
Walking down the street, oh, yeah, they saw me coming. Tears on my cheeks, yeah.